4 years ago, he shattered her dreams with 5 cruel words. She walked away broken, but she didn't stay that way.
Naomi, sometimes being a mom just isn't part of the path for everyone.
Then I guess we're done here.
She disappeared from his life completely, but when fate brought them face to face at a crowded mall, he couldn't believe his eyes. 3 beautiful children, calling her mama.
Naomi, are they yours?
All 3 of them.
The woman he said would never be a mother had become everything he told her she couldn't be. But when he looked closer at those little faces, he saw something that changed everything. Himself. Can a man win back the woman whose heart he shattered? And will Naomi risk loving the father of her children, the same man who once destroyed her dreams? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. The morning sun streamed through the thin curtains of Naomi Ellis's apartment. At 23, she should have felt young and full of hope. Instead, she felt hollow as she stared at the pregnancy test in the bathroom trash can. Negative. Again. Naomi splashed cold water on her face and looked in the mirror. Her dark brown eyes, once bright with dreams, now held a sadness she couldn't hide. She touched her flat stomach, remembering the baby she had lost 8 months ago. The miscarriage had torn her apart, but Braden's reaction had been worse. "These things happen," he had said with a shrug, barely looking up from his phone. "Maybe it's for the best." The sound of the front door slamming shut pulled Naomi from her thoughts. Braden was home from his night shift at the bar. "Babe, you up?" His voice echoed through their small apartment. Naomi quickly wiped her eyes and stepped out of the bathroom. "In here." Braden Mark stood in the hallway, his 6-foot frame leaning against the wall. At 25, he had the kind of good looks that turned heads, sandy brown hair, green eyes, and a smile that had once made Naomi's heart race. Now that smile just made her nervous. "You look like hell," he said, his tone light but his words cutting. "Rough night?" "I'm fine," Naomi said, pushing past him toward the kitchen. "Want some coffee?" Braden followed her, dropping his keys on the counter with a clatter. "Sure. Hey, Mark and Jason want us to come to their place tonight. They're having a party." Naomi poured water into the coffee maker. "I don't know. I'm pretty tired." "You're always tired lately," Braden said with a frown. "What's going on with you?" Naomi's hands trembled as she measured the coffee grounds. She had been keeping her doctor's appointment secret, not ready to face Braden's dismissal again, but maybe it was time to talk about it. "I saw Dr. Reynolds yesterday," she said quietly. Braden's eyebrows shot up. "The fertility doctor?" "Naomi, we talked about this." "No, you talked, I listened." Naomi turned to face him. "I want to try again, Braden. Maybe not right now, but someday." "Try again?" Braden's voice rose. "After what happened last time, do you even remember how messed up you were?" "Of course I remember," Naomi said, her voice steady despite the pain in her chest. "I think about our baby every day." Braden ran a hand through his hair. "Look, I don't want to fight about this again, but maybe we need to be realistic. Some people just aren't cut out to be parents." The words hung in the air between them. Naomi stared at him, waiting for him to take it back, to soften the blow with an apology. But he just stared back, challenging her. "Is that what you think about me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Braden sighed. "I think you're too emotional. You fall apart at the smallest things. How would you handle a kid?" "I fell apart because I lost our baby," Naomi said, anger rising in her voice. "That's not a small thing, Braden. And what if it happens again? What then?" Braden's face hardened. "Face it, Naomi. You can barely hold on to one. You'll never be a mum. Some people just aren't meant for it." The coffee maker beeped in the silence that followed. Naomi felt something break inside her, not with a crash, but with a quiet snap, like a thread that had been holding her to this man finally giving way. Without a word, she walked to their bedroom and pulled her suitcase from the closet. She began to pack methodically, taking only what she needed. Braden followed her. "What are you doing?" "Leaving," Naomi said simply. "Don't be dramatic," Braden scoffed. "We had a fight, it happens." Naomi continued packing, not looking at him. "This isn't just about the fight. It's about who you think I am, who you'll always think I am. Come on, Naomi. Where will you even go?" "My cousin Tanya lives in Charlotte. She's been asking me to visit." Naomi zipped up her suitcase. "I'll stay with her until I figure things out." Braden's face changed, reality setting in. "You're serious?" "Yes." Naomi finally looked at him. "I am." "Fine, go run away. You'll be back." Braden's voice was cold now. "You always come back." But Naomi knew this time was different. As she wheeled her suitcase down the hallway, she didn't slam doors or scream. She simply left, closing the door on 3 years of love that had slowly turned toxic. The months that followed were a blur of new beginnings. Charlotte was different from Atlanta, bigger in some ways, smaller in others. Tanya's apartment became Naomi's sanctuary as she rebuilt her life piece by piece. She found a job as an administrative assistant at a local hospital. She made new friends who knew nothing about her past. She stopped checking Braden's social media. She started therapy, and slowly the weight on her chest began to lift. "You're looking good, girl," Tanya said one morning as Naomi got ready for work. "That new haircut suits you." Naomi touched her shoulder-length curls. She had cut off 6 inches of hair, a physical representation of letting go. "Thanks. I feel different." "Different good or different bad?" Tanya asked, sipping her coffee. "Different good," Naomi said with a small smile. "Like I'm finally becoming the person I was always supposed to be." Tanya nodded approvingly. "Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up. You deserve to be happy, Naomi." Happiness. It seemed like such a foreign concept after the past few years, but Naomi was beginning to believe it might be possible again, until the day she fainted at work. "Ms. Ellis?" The doctor's voice was gentle as he entered the examination room. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Naomi said, sitting up on the examination table. "I think I just forgot to eat breakfast. I've been so busy lately." Dr. Chen looked at her chart, then back at Naomi. "Your blood work showed something interesting. Have you been experiencing any nausea in the mornings? Fatigue? Sensitivity to smells?" Naomi's heart skipped a beat. "Some, yes, but I thought it was just stress from the move and the new job." "Ms. Ellis," Dr. Chen said, a small smile forming on his lips. "You're pregnant." The room seemed to tilt. "That's not possible. I've been told I have fertility issues, and I haven't been with anyone since my ex over a year ago." Dr. Chen shook his head. "Sometimes these things are hard to explain, but the blood test is clear. You're pregnant, and from the hormone levels, I'd say you're about 8 weeks along." Naomi's hand went to her stomach. 8 weeks? But how could I not know? "It happens more often than you might think," Dr. Chen said. "We'll need to do an ultrasound to confirm everything's progressing normally. Do you want to do that today?" Naomi nodded, unable to speak. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when she was finally moving on. The ultrasound room was cold, and the gel on her stomach felt colder. Naomi stared at the ceiling, afraid to look at the screen. Dr. Chen said, moving the wand over her abdomen. "That's interesting." Naomi's heart raced. "Is something wrong?" "Not wrong," Dr. Chen said, turning the screen toward her. "But I do see why your hormone levels were so high. Ms. Ellis, you're carrying multiples." Naomi finally looked at the screen. "Multiples? As in twins?" Dr. Chen pointed to the screen. "Actually, I'm seeing 3 separate gestational sacs. You're having triplets." The world stopped. Triplets. 3 babies, after being told she might never carry even 1 to term. "This explains the high hormone levels and your symptoms," Dr. Chen continued. "Multiple pregnancies often cause more pronounced morning sickness and fatigue." Naomi barely heard him. She was staring at the screen, at the 3 tiny blobs that were her babies, her miracles. "I'll need to see you more frequently than a typical pregnancy," Dr. Chen was saying. "Multiple pregnancies are considered high risk, especially given your history." "Will they be okay?" Naomi finally asked, her voice breaking. Dr. Chen's face softened. "Every pregnancy is different, Ms. Ellis, but so far everything looks good. We'll monitor you closely." Naomi left the hospital in a daze. Pregnant, with triplets. Braden's triplets. The thought made her stomach churn. Should she tell him? Did he deserve to know? Would he even care? She thought about his words, the ones that had finally broken her. "You'll never be a mum. Some people just aren't meant for it." Naomi's hand rested on her stomach as she walked to her car. He was wrong, she whispered to the tiny lives growing inside her. He was so wrong. The next 7 months were the hardest of Naomi's life. Her body, petite to begin with, strained under the weight of 3 growing babies. She was put on bed rest at 6 months, forced to take a leave of absence from work. Tanya was her rock, running errands, cooking meals, and sitting with Naomi during the long days when the walls seemed to close in. "Have you thought about telling him?" Tanya asked one evening as they sorted through tiny onesies and socks. Naomi folded a pale yellow blanket. Every day I decide not to. He's their father, Naomi." "Biology doesn't make him a father," Naomi said firmly. "He made it clear what he thought about me as a mother. I don't need that negativity in my life or theirs." Tanya nodded slowly. "I get it. I do. But what will you tell them when they ask about their dad?" Naomi had thought about this too. The truth, that their father wasn't ready to be a parent, that it doesn't mean they're not loved or wanted. And if he finds out, if he wants to be involved, then I'll deal with it, Naomi said, her voice stronger than she felt. But I'm not going to spend my pregnancy worrying about a man who told me I'd never be a mother. The babies came early, as triplets often do. At 34 weeks, Naomi's water broke, and she was rushed to the hospital. The delivery was a blur of pain, fear, and finally, the most beautiful sound she had ever heard, the cries of her children. 2 girls and a boy, the doctor announced, all looking good for 34 weekers. They were tiny, each weighing just over 4 pounds, but perfect. They spent 2 weeks in the NICU, growing stronger every day. Naomi named them Micah, Marley, and Malia, her miracles, her proof that Braden had been wrong. 4 years passed in a whirlwind of firsts. First smiles, first words, first steps. The triplets grew from fragile newborns to robust toddlers, with personalities as distinct as their faces. Micah was the leader, always the first to try something new. Marley was the thinker, quiet and observant. Malia was the charmer, with a smile that could melt the coldest heart. Naomi, now 27, had settled into single motherhood with a strength she never knew she possessed. She had moved out of Tanya's apartment into a small house with a yard where the triplets could play. She had returned to work part-time at the hospital, placing the kids in a daycare that understood the unique challenges of raising multiples. Life wasn't perfect. There were days when all 3 kids seemed to melt down at once, when the bills piled up faster than she could pay them, when she was so tired she could barely remember her own name. But those days were outnumbered by the good ones, by Micah's infectious laugh, Marley's thoughtful questions, and Malia's fierce hugs, by the sight of all 3 of them sleeping peacefully, their tiny chests rising and falling in unison. On a hot summer afternoon, Naomi took the triplets to the North Lake Mall. It was an indulgence. The food court was overpriced and the toy store was a guaranteed tantrum trigger, but she had promised them a treat after their checkups at the pediatrician. "Mama, can I have chicken nuggets?" Micah asked, tugging at her hand. Me too," Marley echoed, not to be outdone. Malia, always the independent one, shook her head. "I want pizza." Naomi laughed, juggling 3 diaper bags in her purse. "Let's find a table first, then we'll decide." The food court was packed, but Naomi managed to snag a table near the center. She set down her bags and helped the triplets into their seats. "Stay right here while Mama gets your food, okay?" 3 little heads nodded solemnly. Naomi knew she had about 5 minutes before one of them decided to explore. She was at the chicken nugget counter when Malia's sippy cup fell, spilling juice across the floor. Sighing, Naomi grabbed napkins and bent to clean up the mess. That's when she heard it. A voice she hadn't heard in 4 years, a voice that still appeared in her nightmares. "Naomi?" She froze, napkins in hand. Slowly she stood and turned. Braden Marks stood 5 feet away, looking exactly as she remembered, and completely different at the same time. His hair was shorter, his face a little leaner. He wore a button-down shirt and slacks instead of the jeans and t-shirts he had favored before. "Braden," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. His eyes widened, taking her in. "I thought it was you. You look good." "Thanks." Naomi glanced back at her table, where the triplets were starting to get restless. "I need to get back to my kids." Braden followed her gaze, and his face paled. Are they yours?" Naomi nodded, a strange calm settling over her. "All 3. Braden's mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. He stared at the triplets, at Micah's chin, so like his own, at Marley's eyes, the same shade of green as his, at Malia's sandy brown hair, a perfect match to his. "They're—" he started, then stopped. "How old are they?" 3, Naomi said, watching his face as he did the math. 3, he repeated. "So that means, when you left—" "I didn't know," Naomi said. "I found out a year after I moved to Charlotte." Braden's face showed a mix of emotions, shock, disbelief, and something that looked almost like grief. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question hung between them, loaded with 4 years of silence. Naomi thought about all the responses she had rehearsed in her head for this moment, the angry ones, the hurt ones, the righteous ones. Instead, she simply said, "You told me I'd never be a mum, that I wasn't meant for it." Braden flinched as his own words came back to him. "Naomi, Mama," Malia's voice cut through the tension. "I'm hungry. I need to go," Naomi said, turning away. "Wait," Braden said, reaching for her arm but stopping short of touching her. "Can we talk, please?" Naomi looked at him, this man who had once been her whole world, who had broken her heart with a single sentence. Now he stood before her, humbled by the sight of the children he never knew existed. "Not now," she said finally. "I need to feed my kids." "Tomorrow then," Braden pressed, "or next week, whenever you can." Naomi hesitated. Part of her wanted to walk away and never look back. But another part, the part that saw the triplets' features in his face, knew this conversation couldn't be avoided forever. "I'll think about it," she said. She walked back to the table, heart pounding. The triplets greeted her with demands for food, oblivious to the life-changing encounter that had just occurred. As she settled them with chicken nuggets and pizza, Naomi felt Braden's eyes on her from across the food court. He hadn't moved, still frozen in the spot where his past and present had collided. Naomi took a deep breath and focused on cutting Micah's nuggets into smaller pieces. Her life had changed once when she walked away from Braden. It had changed again when she discovered she was pregnant. Now it was changing a third time, with Braden's reappearance. But this time, she wasn't alone. This time she was a mother, the very thing he said she'd never be. And that made all the difference. Naomi barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Braden's face. The shock, the disbelief, the dawning realization as he looked at the triplets, his children, the ones he never knew existed. She checked on the triplets twice, watching their peaceful sleep, and wondering how this new development would affect their little world. They had never asked about their father. At 3, their questions were still about simpler things. Why the sky was blue, where butterflies slept at night, whether dinosaurs liked macaroni and cheese. But someday they would ask. And now Braden was here, in Charlotte, wanting to talk. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. "It's Braden. I got your number from the hospital directory. I know you need time, but please call me when you're ready. We need to talk." Naomi stared at the message. How had he even found her? Then she remembered. She still used her maiden name at work. It wouldn't have been hard to look her up. She didn't respond. Not that night, and not the next morning when another text came through. "I'm staying at the Marriott downtown. Room 312, I'll be here all week." It was Tanya who finally convinced her to respond. "You can't ignore him forever," her cousin said over coffee after the triplets had been dropped off at daycare. "He knows about them now, and legally he has rights." "Rights?" Naomi's voice rose. "He gave up any rights when he told me I'd never be a mother." Tanya reached across the table and took Naomi's hand. "I know, and I was there to pick up the pieces when he broke you. But this isn't just about you anymore, it's about Micah, Marley, and Malia too." Deep down, Naomi knew Tanya was right. The triplets deserved to know their father, even if he had hurt her. And she needed to know what Braden wanted, whether he planned to be a part of their lives, or if this was just guilt driving him to make amends. She texted him back that afternoon. "We can meet tomorrow. Coffee shop on Tryon Street, 2 p.m. Just to talk." His response came immediately. "I'll be there. Thank you." The coffee shop was busy, just as Naomi had planned. She wanted witnesses, noise, a reason to keep the conversation short if needed. She arrived early and chose a table in the corner, facing the door so she could see him coming. Braden arrived exactly at 2, scanning the room until his eyes found her. He looked different in daylight, older somehow, more serious. He wore the same button-down shirt and slacks, a far cry from the casual clothes he had favored during their relationship. "Hi," he said, sliding into the chair across from her. "Thanks for meeting me." Naomi nodded, not trusting her voice. Up close she could see the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his jaw. "I ordered you black coffee," she said, pushing a cup toward him. "You still take it black, right?" Something flickered in his eyes, surprised that she remembered, perhaps. "Yeah, thanks." An awkward silence settled between them. 4 years ago they could talk for hours. Now they sat like strangers, separated by more than just a table. "So," Braden finally said, "triplets." Despite everything, Naomi couldn't help a small smile. "Triplets. They're beautiful," he said, his voice soft. "They look like you." "They look like both of us," Naomi corrected. "Micah has your chin, Marley has your eyes, and Malia has your hair." Braden's hand tightened around his cup. "Micah, Marley, and Malia. I like those names. I wanted them to have something in common," Naomi explained. "Something that connected them. Besides being triplets." There was a hint of the old Braden in that question, the one who could make her laugh with his dry humor. "Besides that," Naomi agreed, a ghost of a smile crossing her face. Another silence, less awkward this time. "Why didn't you tell me?" Braden finally asked, the question that had clearly been burning inside him. When you found out, why keep it from me? Naomi took a sip of her tea, gathering her thoughts. I found out I was pregnant a year after I left. By then we hadn't spoken in months, and the last words you said to me, she trailed off, the memory still painful, that you'd never be a mother. Braden finished, his voice hollow. I remember. You hurt me, Braden, deeply, and I was afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid you wouldn't want them. Afraid you would. Afraid of co-parenting with someone who thought I wasn't good enough to be a mother. Naomi's voice remained steady, though her hands trembled slightly. I had to protect myself. And them. Braden looked down at his coffee. I was wrong. About you. About everything. Yes, you were, Naomi said simply. I've changed, Naomi. The last 4 years, they haven't been easy. For either of us, she pointed out. No, but you had them. Braden's voice cracked slightly. I had nothing. No one. Naomi felt a twinge of sympathy, quickly suppressed. What do you want, Braden? Why are you in Charlotte? Braden straightened in his chair. I'm here for a job interview. Regional manager position with Parker & Sons. They're opening a branch here. And if you get the job, I'll move here. Start over. He hesitated, then added, be close to them, if you'll let me. Naomi's heart raced. This was what she had been afraid of. Braden wanting to be involved, complicating the careful life she had built. They don't know you, she said carefully. They've never asked about their father. But they will, Braden said. You know they will. Another silence, heavier this time. I'm not asking for custody or visitation rights or anything like that, Braden said quickly. Not yet, anyway. I just want a chance to meet them, to be in their lives, even just as a friend of their mom's at first. Naomi studied his face, looking for the old Braden, the one who could charm and manipulate to get what he wanted, but all she saw was a man who seemed genuinely humbled. I need to think about it, she said finally. This isn't just about us. It's about what's best for them. I understand, Braden said, though disappointment flashed across his face. Take all the time you need. As they left the coffee shop, Braden stopped her with a gentle touch on her arm. For what it's worth, Naomi, you proved me wrong. You're an amazing mother. Anyone can see that. The words she had waited 4 years to hear, yet they didn't bring the satisfaction she had expected. I didn't do it to prove you wrong, she said. I did it because I love them more than anything in this world. Braden nodded, his eyes sad. I know, that's what makes you so amazing. A week passed, then 2. Naomi kept her phone close, expecting Braden to push for an answer. But after that single conversation, he had gone silent. No texts, no calls, no surprise visits. It was almost disappointing. Maybe he gave up, Tanya suggested one evening as they folded laundry, the triplets already asleep. Maybe it was too much for him. Maybe, Naomi said, smoothing a tiny t-shirt with Micah's name on it. Or maybe he's actually respecting my boundaries for once. Tanya raised an eyebrow. People can change, you know. Not that much, Naomi said firmly. But doubt had crept in. What if Braden had changed? What if he could be good for the triplets? What if denying them a relationship with their father was the wrong choice? These questions haunted her until 3 weeks after their coffee shop meeting, Naomi's phone rang with Braden's number. I got the job, he said when she answered. I start next month. Congratulations, Naomi said, unsure how to feel about the news. I've been looking at apartments near Dilworth, Braden continued. Not too close to you, but not too far either. That's nice, Naomi said automatically, then caught herself. Braden, I still haven't decided. I know, he cut in, and I'm not pressuring you. I just wanted you to know I'll be around, in case you decide to let me meet them. After they hung up, Naomi sat on her bed, phone in hand. If Braden was moving to Charlotte, the triplets would eventually cross paths with him. Charlotte wasn't that big, especially when you had 3 curious, energetic toddlers who loved exploring the city. It might be better to control the first meeting rather than have it happen by chance. With a deep breath, she texted him, The park on 7th Street, Saturday at 10. The triplets will be there. Saturday dawned bright and clear. Naomi dressed the triplets in their matching outfits, something she rarely did but felt necessary for this occasion. Where are we going, Mama? Marley asked as Naomi helped her with her shoes. To the park, Naomi said, forcing cheerfulness into her voice, and we're going to meet a friend of Mama's. A friend? Micah perked up. Like Miss Tanya? Not exactly, Naomi said carefully. His name is Braden. He knew Mama a long time ago. Before we were born? Malia asked, always the most perceptive of the 3. Yes, sweetheart, before you were born. Naomi's hands shook as she loaded the triplets into her minivan. She had rehearsed what to say, how to introduce Braden, but everything felt inadequate. How do you introduce children to a father they never knew existed? The park was busy with weekend visitors. Naomi found a bench near the playground and settled the triplets with their snacks, scanning the area for Braden. He arrived exactly at 10, carrying a paper bag from the bakery down the street. He spotted them immediately, his step faltering slightly as he approached. "Hi," he said, his voice tight with nerves. "Hi," Naomi replied, standing to create a barrier between him and the triplets. "You're on time." Braden nodded, his eyes moving to the 3 small figures on the bench. "Are those—" "Yes." Naomi turned to the triplets. "Micah, Marley, Malia, this is Mama's friend, Mr. Braden." 3 pairs of eyes studied him with varying degrees of interest. Micah, always the bold one, spoke first. "You're tall." Braden laughed, a genuine sound that seemed to break the tension. "Yes, I am. You're pretty tall yourself for a 3-year-old. "I'm 3.5, Micah corrected solemnly. "My mistake," Braden said, crouching down to their level. "I brought something for you all, if it's okay with your mum." He glanced at Naomi, who nodded reluctantly. From the paper bag, Braden produced 3 small cupcakes, chocolate with blue frosting, vanilla with pink frosting, and red velvet with purple frosting. "I didn't know what flavors you liked," he explained to the triplets, "so I got different ones." "I like chocolate," Micah said immediately. "Pink is my favorite color," Marley added shyly. Malia just stared at Braden, her eyes, so like his, narrowed slightly. "Why haven't we met you before?" The direct question caught both adults off guard. Naomi started to answer, but Braden spoke first. "I've been living in another city," he said, his voice gentle, "but now I'm moving to Charlotte, so maybe we can be friends." Malia considered this, then nodded. "Okay, I want the purple one." The ice broken, the triplets devoured their cupcakes while Braden watched in fascination. Naomi could see the wonder on his face, the way his eyes traced their features, looking for himself in them. "Can we play now?" Micah asked, his face smeared with chocolate. "Yes, but stay where I can see you," Naomi said, using a wet wipe to clean his face. The triplets ran toward the slide, leaving the adults alone on the bench. "They're amazing," Braden said, his voice thick with emotion. "They're so complete, like little people." "They are little people," Naomi pointed out. "I know, Braden shook his head. "I've missed so much." Naomi felt a surge of anger. "That was your choice. You're the one who said I'd never be a mother." "I know," Braden said quickly, "and I'll never forgive myself for that. But Naomi, I didn't know about them. If you had, what?" Naomi challenged. "Would you have stayed? Would you have suddenly become Father of the Year?" Braden looked at the ground. "I don't know. I'd like to think I would have stepped up, but the truth is, I wasn't ready then. I was selfish and immature. I would have been a terrible father." The honesty of his answer surprised her. The old Braden would have made promises, would have said whatever he thought she wanted to hear. "And now?" she asked, unable to stop herself. "Now I want to try," Braden said simply. "I want to be in their lives, however you'll let me. I don't expect to just become dad overnight, but I want a chance to earn that title." Naomi watched the triplets playing, their laughter carrying across the playground. They were happy, well-adjusted, loved. Did they need Braden in their lives? But then she thought about the questions they would eventually ask, about the hole in their family story that would grow larger as they got older, about the right they had to know where they came from. "We can try," she said finally. "Slowly, just as my friend at first. I won't tell them you're their father until I'm sure you're staying." Relief washed over Braden's face. "Thank you. That's more than I deserve." "Yes, it is," Naomi agreed. "And if you hurt them, if you disappear from their lives once they get attached to you, I will never forgive you." "I understand," Braden said solemnly. "I won't let them down, or you." The promise hung between them, weighted with the past and uncertain future. "Mama!" Marley called from the top of the slide. "Watch me!" Naomi smiled and waved, her heart both heavy and light. She had spent 4 years building a life without Braden, protecting her children from the man who had hurt her so deeply. Now she was letting him in, against all her better judgment, but watching him clap and cheer as Marley slid down, seeing the joy on his face as Micah showed him how to climb the jungle gym, noticing the careful way he helped Malia across the monkey bars. Naomi wondered if perhaps people really could change. The weeks that followed settled into a cautious rhythm. Braden moved into his apartment in Dilworth, 15 minutes from Naomi's house. He started his new job, and every Saturday, he met them at the park. Sometimes Tanya came along, her presence a buffer that Naomi appreciated. Other times, it was just the five of them, Naomi, Braden, and the triplets, navigating this new relationship, one awkward conversation at a time. "How was work?" Naomi asked one Saturday as they watched the triplets on the swings. "Good," Braden said. "Busy. The new branch is taking off faster than we expected." Small talk, safe topics. They carefully avoided anything too personal, too reminiscent of their past, until the day Marley fell off the monkey bars. It wasn't a serious fall, a scraped knee, a few tears, but Braden reached her first. He scooped her up with a tenderness that surprised Naomi, checking her injury with gentle hands. "You're okay, sweetheart," he murmured, his voice steady as he pulled a Band-Aid from his pocket. "Look, I've got a special Band-Aid just for brave girls like you." Marley's tears slowed as she examined the colorful Band-Aid. "It has butterflies on it." "It does," Braden agreed. "And butterflies are tough, just like you." The moment was simple, ordinary even. But watching Braden comfort her daughter, Naomi felt something shift inside her. This wasn't the man who had dismissed her dreams of motherhood. This was someone new, or perhaps someone who had been buried beneath layers of immaturity and selfishness. That night, after the triplets were asleep, Naomi called Tanya. "He's different," she said without preamble. "Braden, he's really changed." Tanya's voice was cautious. "In what way?" "He's patient, thoughtful. He listens when the kids talk, really listens. And today, with Marley," Naomi described the incident, her voice catching. "He knew exactly what to do." "Some men are naturals with kids," Tanya said. "It doesn't mean he's changed completely." "I know," Naomi sighed, "but it's been over a month and he hasn't missed a single Saturday. He remembers what they like, what they don't like. He asks about their week, their friends at daycare." "So what are you saying?" Tanya asked. "Are you thinking of telling them who he really is?" The question hung in the air. Naomi had been avoiding it, even in her own thoughts. But the triplets were getting attached to Mr. Braden. Micah asked about him during the week. Marley had drawn a picture of the five of them at the park. Even Malia, the most reserved, had started saving stories to tell him. "I don't know," Naomi admitted. "It feels too soon, but also not soon enough. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," Tanya said gently. "But Naomi, be careful. Not just for the kids' sake, but for yours too." "What do you mean?" "I've seen the way you look at him sometimes, like you're remembering the good parts of what you had." Naomi felt her cheeks flush. I'm not. "It's okay if you are," Tanya cut in. "Just protect your heart too, not just the triplets." After they hung up, Naomi sat in the darkness of her living room, thinking about Tanya's warning. Was she starting to have feelings for Braden again? The thought was terrifying. He had hurt her once. He could do it again. But the man who brought butterfly Band-Aids and remembered which triplet liked which swing, that man seemed so far from the one who had crushed her dreams with a single cruel sentence. Her phone buzzed with a text from Braden. "Is Marley's knee okay?" Such a simple question. Such a dad question. "She's fine," Naomi texted back. The butterfly Band-Aid worked magic. 3 dots appeared as he typed a response. "Good. I was worried about her. She's so sensitive." He had noticed that about Marley. He had noticed all their individual traits. Micah's leadership, Malia's independence, Marley's sensitive spirit. Another text came through. "I was thinking maybe we could try something different next weekend. The Children's Museum is having a special exhibit on dinosaurs." Micah mentioned he likes dinosaurs. Naomi smiled despite herself. Yes, Micah was obsessed with dinosaurs. His favorite book was about a T-Rex who wanted to brush his teeth but couldn't reach. "He would love that," she texted back. "Great. And they have a butterfly garden too, for Marley, and an art station where kids can make sculptures. Malia might like that." He had thought about all 3 of them, their individual interests. It was thoughtful, considerate, not at all like the Braden she had known. "Sounds perfect," she wrote. Then, after a moment's hesitation, added, "You're good with them, you know. They like you." His response was immediate. "They're easy to like. They're amazing kids, Naomi. You've done an incredible job with them." Warmth spread through her chest at his words. The validation she had once craved from him now felt unnecessary. She knew she was a good mother. She didn't need Braden to tell her that. But it was nice to hear anyway. "Thank you," she texted back. "See you Saturday." As she set her phone down, Naomi realized she was looking forward to Saturday, not just for the triplets' sake, but for her own too, to see Braden with them. to watch this new version of him, to explore whether people really could change. It was a dangerous thought, one that could lead to disappointment, to heartbreak. But as she checked on each sleeping triplet, Naomi found herself wondering if perhaps some risks were worth taking. For the first time in 4 years, she allowed herself to imagine a future that included Braden, not as her partner, but as a co-parent, a father to her children, a man who had learned from his mistakes and grown into someone better. It was a small shift, but a significant one. And as she climbed into bed that night, Naomi realized that somewhere along the way, she had started to forgive him. Not completely, not all at once, but slowly in small moments. A butterfly band-aid, a remembered preference, a genuine compliment. The wall she had built around her heart, brick by painful brick, was beginning to crumble. And the most surprising part was that she wasn't sure she wanted to rebuild it. The Children's Museum was crowded that Saturday morning. Families pushed through the exhibits, children's excited voices echoing off the high ceilings. Naomi held Marley's hand while keeping an eye on Micah, who was racing toward the dinosaur exhibit. "Slow down, Micah!" she called after him. Malia stood quietly beside her, observing everything with her thoughtful eyes. "Where's Mr. Braden?" she asked. "He'll be here soon," Naomi assured her, checking her watch. Braden was 15 minutes late, and a familiar anxiety was starting to gnaw at her stomach. What if he didn't show up? What if this was the beginning of him disappearing from their lives? Just as she was about to call him, Braden burst through the museum doors, slightly out of breath. He spotted them immediately and hurried over. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice genuinely apologetic. "There was an accident on Tryon Street. Traffic was backed up for miles." "It's okay," Naomi said, relief washing over her. "We just got here ourselves." Micah had spotted Braden and came running back. "Mr. Braden, they have a real T-Rex skeleton. Come see." Braden grinned, allowing himself to be pulled toward the dinosaur exhibit. "Lead the way, buddy." Naomi watched them go, Micah chattering excitedly, and Braden listening with rapt attention. Marley tugged at her hand. "Can I go too, Mama? I want to see the dinosaurs with Micah and Mr. Braden." "Of course, sweetie." Naomi looked down at Malia. "What about you? Dinosaurs or butterflies first?" Malia considered the question seriously. "Dinosaurs," she decided, "but I want to do art after." "It's a plan," Naomi agreed, and they followed the others to the exhibit. The morning passed in a blur of activity. Braden seemed to have endless energy, matching the triplets' enthusiasm at every turn. He lifted Marley onto his shoulders so she could see the tallest dinosaur displays. He helped Micah pronounce the complicated dinosaur names. He sat patiently with Malia at the art station, helping her create a sculpture that vaguely resembled a stegosaurus. By lunchtime, all 3 triplets were showing signs of fatigue. They settled in the museum cafe, where Braden insisted on buying lunch. "You don't have to do that," Naomi protested as he returned to the table with a tray loaded with food. "I want to," Braden said simply. "It's the least I can do." As the triplets ate their chicken nuggets and apple slices, Naomi found herself studying Braden. He looked tired but happy, his eyes crinkling at the corners when he smiled at one of Micah's jokes. "You're good at this," she said quietly, while the triplets were distracted by their food. Braden looked surprised. "At what?" "Being with them. You're patient, attentive." A shadow crossed his face. "I wasn't always like that." "No," Naomi agreed. "You weren't." "I've had a lot of time to think about the kind of person I want to be," Braden said, his voice low so the triplets wouldn't hear. "The kind of man I want to be." Before Naomi could respond, Malia tugged at Braden's sleeve. "Mr. Braden, are you our daddy?" The question fell like a bomb in the middle of the table. Naomi froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Braden's eyes widened in shock. "What makes you ask that, sweetie?" Naomi managed to say, her heart racing. Malia shrugged. "Zoe at daycare has a daddy who doesn't live with her. He takes her places on weekends, like Mr. Braden takes us places." The simplicity of the child's logic was devastating. Naomi glanced at Braden, who looked as stunned as she felt. "And you have the same eyes as me," Malia continued, studying Braden's face. "Miss Tanya says, I have my daddy's eyes." Naomi was going to have a serious talk with Tanya later. She took a deep breath, aware that all 3 triplets were now watching her intently, waiting for an answer. "Mr. Braden is—" she began, then faltered. She looked at Braden, a silent question in her eyes. He gave an almost imperceptible nod, his face solemn. "Yes," Naomi said finally, her voice steadier than she expected. "Mr. Braden is your daddy." A moment of silence followed this revelation. Then Micah piped up, "Does that mean we can call you Daddy instead of Mr. Braden?" Braden's eyes filled with tears. He cleared his throat. "If that's what you want, buddy." "I want to," Micah decided immediately. Marley nodded in agreement, her eyes wide. Malia, however, looked skeptical. "Why haven't you been with us before?" Again, that direct question that cut straight to the heart of the matter. Naomi and Braden exchanged glances. "That's a grown-up thing that's hard to explain," Naomi began carefully. "I lived far away," Braden added, "but I'm here now, and I want to spend as much time with you as I can, if that's okay." Malia considered this, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but I'm still thinking about calling you Daddy." Braden smiled through his tears. "That's fair. You take all the time you need." The rest of the afternoon had a dreamlike quality. Naomi watched as the triplets processed this new information in their own ways. Micah immediately started calling Braden Daddy, testing out the word with excitement. Marley was more reserved, but stayed close to Braden, holding his hand as they explored the butterfly garden. Malia remained watchful, observing this new dynamic with her usual thoughtfulness. As they prepared to leave the museum, Braden pulled Naomi aside while the triplets were putting on their jackets. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't expect this to happen today. If it's too soon—" "It was always going to happen," Naomi interrupted. "They're smart kids. They were bound to figure it out." "Are you okay with it?" Braden asked, his eyes searching hers. "With them knowing? With them calling me that?" Naomi took a deep breath. "I think so. But Braden, this changes things. They know who you are now. You can't just disappear if it gets hard or if you get bored." "I won't," he said firmly. "I promise you, Naomi. I'm in this for the long haul." The sincerity in his voice was something new, a depth of commitment she had never heard from him before. For the first time, Naomi truly believed him. The following weeks brought a shift in their carefully constructed routine. Braden no longer saw the triplets just on Saturdays. He started coming by after work some evenings, helping with dinner or bedtime stories. He took Micah to t-ball practice when Naomi had to work late. He sat with Marley at the doctor's office when she had an ear infection, entertaining her with silly faces while they waited. And Naomi found herself adjusting to this new reality, co-parenting with a man she had once loved, then hated, and now, what? She wasn't sure what she felt for Braden anymore. Gratitude, certainly, for the way he had stepped up, respect for his commitment to the triplets, and something else, something she wasn't ready to name. "Earth to Naomi," Tanya said, waving a hand in front of her face. They were having their weekly coffee date, a tradition they had maintained even after Naomi moved out of Tanya's apartment. "Sorry," Naomi said, shaking off her thoughts. "What were you saying?" "I was asking how things are going with Braden," Tanya said, a knowing smile on her face. "You had that look again." "What look?" "The I'm thinking about Braden look. It's different from your I'm worried about the kids look or your I forgot to pay the electric bill look." Naomi rolled her eyes. "I don't have different looks." "Oh, you absolutely do," Tanya insisted. "So, how are things?" Naomi sighed. "Good, actually. He's been amazing with the kids. They adore him, especially Micah. And even Malia has started calling him Daddy now. And how about you? How are you feeling about all this?" "Confused," Naomi admitted. "When I look at him with the triplets, I see a completely different person from the man I left 4 years ago. It's like he's grown up finally." "People do that sometimes," Tanya said gently. "Grow up. I know. But it's strange to witness it. To reconcile the Braden who told me I'd never be a mother with the Braden who reads bedtime stories to our children." Tanya stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "Have you two talked about what happens next? About your relationship?" "There is no relationship," Naomi said quickly. "We're co-parents. That's all." "Mm-hmm," Tanya hummed skeptically. "And that's why you blush every time he comes to the door, because you're just co-parents." "I do not blush," Naomi protested, feeling her cheeks warm. "You're blushing right now just talking about him," Tanya pointed out with a laugh. Naomi covered her face with her hands. "This is ridiculous. I can't have feelings for him, not after everything." "Why not?" Tanya asked. "He hurt you, yes, badly, but he spent months proving he's changed. And you said yourself, he's not the same person anymore." "It's not that simple," Naomi insisted. "We have the triplets to think about. What if we try again and it doesn't work out? It would devastate them." "And what if it does work out?" Tanya countered. "What if the man who's been showing up for you and the kids is exactly who he claims to be? Someone who's learned from his mistakes and wants to make things right?" Naomi had no answer for that. The possibility was both terrifying and exhilarating. Just promise me you'll be careful, Tanya said, reaching across the table to squeeze Naomi's hand. Guard your heart until you're sure. I will, Naomi promised. Trust me, I'm in no rush to jump back into anything. But that night when Braden came by with pizza for dinner, Naomi found herself noticing things she had been trying to ignore, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the gentle way he handled the triplets, the deep laugh that still sent a shiver down her spine. After the triplets were in bed, Braden helped her clean up the kitchen, their movements falling into an easy rhythm. They're getting so big, he said, loading the dishwasher. Micah told me today he wants to be a paleontologist when he grows up. Naomi smiled. Last week it was an astronaut. The week before that, a firefighter. He's keeping his options open. Smart kid. Braden closed the dishwasher and leaned against the counter. Hey, I wanted to ask you something. Naomi's heart skipped a beat. What's that? My parents want to meet them. The triplets, I mean. They've been asking for weeks, but I wanted to check with you first. Naomi hadn't thought about Braden's parents in years. They had always been kind to her, if a bit reserved. Your parents know about them? Braden nodded. I told them right after I saw you at the mall. They were, well, shocked at first, but now they're excited. They want to be grandparents. That's a big step, Naomi said slowly. Another layer of people in their lives. I know. And if you're not comfortable with it, I understand. But they're good people, Naomi. They would love the triplets. Naomi thought about it. The triplets had never had grandparents. Her own parents had died in a car accident just before she met Braden. Having Braden's parents in their lives could be good for them. Okay, she said finally. But maybe we start with a short visit. See how it goes. Relief and joy spread across Braden's face. Thank you. They'll be so happy. They're coming to visit next weekend. I thought maybe a lunch at my place. Low pressure. That sounds reasonable, Naomi agreed. Braden reached out and squeezed her hand. Thank you, Naomi, for everything, for letting me be part of their lives, for giving me a second chance. His hand was warm around hers, and for a moment Naomi felt the old spark between them, the connection that had once been so strong. Everyone deserves a second chance, she said softly, gently withdrawing her hand. Good night, Braden. After he left, Naomi stood in her kitchen, her hand still tingling from his touch. Tanya's words echoed in her mind. What if it does work out? But the memory of his cruel words from 4 years ago still haunted her. You'll never be a mum. Some people just aren't meant for it. She had proven him wrong about being a mother, but could she trust him with her heart again? That was a question she wasn't ready to answer. Lunch with Braden's parents went better than Naomi had dared to hope. Robert and Martha Marks were clearly nervous at first, sitting stiffly on Braden's couch as the triplets sized them up. They have your eyes, son, Robert said, looking from Braden to the triplets. Marley and Malia do, Braden agreed. Micah has Naomi's eyes. They're beautiful children, Martha said, her voice thick with emotion. All of them. Micah, as usual, was the first to break the ice. Are you my grandma and grandpa? He asked bluntly. Martha looked to Naomi, as if seeking permission to claim the title. Naomi nodded slightly. Yes, we are, Martha said, a smile breaking across her face. If that's okay with you. I never had a grandma and grandpa before, Micah said thoughtfully. What do grandparents do? Robert laughed, the tension visibly leaving his shoulders. Well, for starters, we spoil our grandchildren with presents, and we tell them stories about when their daddy was a little boy. Daddy was a little boy? Marley asked, her eyes wide with wonder. Oh yes, Martha said, warming to the subject, and I have pictures to prove it. She pulled out her phone and beckoned the triplets closer. Soon all three were gathered around her, giggling at baby pictures of Braden. He was bald, Micah exclaimed, pointing at a photo of infant Braden. Just like you were, Naomi told him, joining the group. None of you had hair until you were almost 1. The afternoon passed pleasantly, with the triplets warming up to their new grandparents. Robert turned out to have a hidden talent for magic tricks, delighting the children with disappearing coins and card tricks. Martha had brought homemade cookies that were an instant hit. As Naomi watched the scene, she felt a mix of emotions. Joy for the triplets, who were clearly thriving with this expanded family circle. Gratitude toward Robert and Martha, who had embraced the triplets without hesitation, and a strange sadness for the 4 years lost, years when the triplets could have known their grandparents, when Robert and Martha could have watched them grow. Later, when the triplets were playing in Braden's small backyard with Robert, Martha pulled Naomi aside. I want to thank you, she said, her eyes sincere, for allowing us into their lives, and for being such a wonderful mother to them. They're easy to love, Naomi said simply. Yes, they are. Martha hesitated, then added, Braden told us what he said to you before you left, about you not being meant to be a mother. Naomi stiffened. He did. Martha nodded, her eyes sad. He was devastated when he realized how wrong he'd been. When he saw you with the triplets that day at the mall, it was like something broke open in him. He called us that night, crying like I hadn't heard since he was a child. Naomi didn't know what to say. The image of Braden crying to his parents was at odds with the man she had known. He's changed, Martha continued. I know everyone says that, and I know it's hard to believe. But the Braden who came back to Charlotte isn't the same boy who hurt you. He's a man now, a man who wants to be a good father. I've seen that, Naomi acknowledged. He's wonderful with the triplets. Martha smiled gently. And with you, how is he with you? The question caught Naomi off guard. We're figuring things out. Co-parenting. Of course, Martha said, though her eyes held a knowing look. That's what's important right now. The children. Before Naomi could respond, Micah came running in, demanding that Grandma come see the biggest bug ever in the backyard. As Martha allowed herself to be pulled away, she gave Naomi's hand a quick squeeze. Just know that we're here for all of you, Naomi. Not just the triplets, not just Braden. You too. The simple acceptance brought unexpected tears to Naomi's eyes. She blinked them away quickly and followed Martha outside, where the triplets were gathered around a large beetle, their faces alight with excitement. Braden caught her eye across the yard and smiled, a smile that held questions, hopes, and something that looked like longing. Naomi smiled back, feeling a warmth in her chest that had been absent for a very long time. After the lunch with Braden's parents, things shifted again. The triplets now had grandparents who FaceTimed them twice a week and sent packages of books and small toys. Braden's role in their lives expanded, becoming more official. He was listed as an emergency contact at their daycare, attended parent-teacher conferences alongside Naomi, took them for their flu shots when Naomi had to work. To the outside world, they looked like a normal family, just one where the parents lived in separate homes. But Naomi knew they were still walking a delicate line. Braden had proven himself as a father, but what about as a partner, as someone she could trust with not just the triplets' hearts but her own? The question became more pressing one evening in late November, when Braden came to pick up the triplets for their weekly dinner at his apartment. "Daddy!" Micah shouted, running to the door when Braden knocked. "Guess what? I lost a tooth." Braden made a big show of examining the gap in Micah's smile. "That's amazing, buddy. Did the tooth fairy come?" "Not yet," Micah said. "It just fell out at lunch. See?" He proudly held up a small plastic container with his tooth inside. "That's definitely worth at least $1, Braden said seriously. "Maybe $2. Marley and Malia joined them, already wearing their coats. "Can we go to the park before dinner?" Marley asked. "One, please." "If it's okay with your mum," Braden said, looking to Naomi. "Bundle up," Naomi said. "It's getting cold out there." As the triplets gathered their hats and mittens, Braden lowered his voice. "I wanted to ask you something. My company's having a Christmas party next week. I was wondering if you'd like to come, as my +1. Naomi's heart skipped a beat. "Like a date?" Braden's eyes were steady on hers. "Exactly like a date." The directness of his answer took her breath away. No games, no manipulation, just honesty. I don't know, Braden. It's complicated. It doesn't have to be," he said gently. "It's just a party, a chance to dress up, have some adult conversation. My parents already said they'd watch the triplets." The thought was tempting. Naomi couldn't remember the last time she'd gone out without the triplets, let alone dressed up for a party. "Let me think about it," she asked. "Of course," Braden said, disappointment flashing in his eyes for just a moment before he smiled. "No pressure. The offer stands." After they left, Naomi called Tanya. "He asked me on a date," she said without preamble. "About time," Tanya replied. "What did you say?" "That I'd think about it." "And what are you thinking?" Naomi sighed. "That I'm scared. That it's been 4 years since I've been on a date. That I don't know if I can trust him again." "All valid concerns," Tanya acknowledged. "But here's another thought. What if this is your second chance too? Not just his, but yours. A chance at the family you always wanted." The words hit Naomi hard. A family, the 4 of them, together. It was a dream she had abandoned years ago, buried under the pain of Braden's rejection. "What should I do?" she asked, though she already knew what Tanya would say. "Go to the party," Tanya said firmly. "Wear that red dress you bought last year and never had a reason to wear. See what happens. You can always leave if it feels wrong." After they hung up, Naomi went to her closet and pulled out the red dress Tanya had mentioned. She held it up against herself, looking in the mirror. The woman who stared back at her was different from the one who had left Atlanta 4 years ago. Stronger, more confident. A mother who had proven herself against all odds. Maybe it was time to see if she could be something else too. Something she had once been and might be again. A woman in love. She texted Braden. "About the party, yes, I'd like to go, as your +1. His response came immediately. "Really? That's great. I promise you won't regret it." Naomi set down her phone, her heart racing. She wasn't sure if she was making the right decision or a terrible mistake, but for the first time in years she was willing to find out. The night of the Christmas party arrived faster than Naomi expected. She spent an hour getting ready, fussing with her hair and makeup in a way she hadn't done since before the triplets were born. When the doorbell rang, she felt like a teenager on her first date. She opened the door to find Braden standing there in a dark suit, his hair neatly combed, a small bouquet of red roses in his hand. "Wow," he said, his eyes widening as he took in her appearance. "You look incredible." Naomi smoothed the front of her red dress self-consciously. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." "These are for you," Braden said, handing her the roses. "I remembered they were your favorite." The gesture touched her. It had been so long since anyone had given her flowers. "Thank you. Let me put them in water before we go." As she arranged the roses in a vase, Naomi could feel Braden watching her. When she turned around, he was leaning against the doorframe, a soft expression on his face. "What?" she asked, suddenly self-conscious. "Nothing," he said, straightening up. "Just remembering." The word hung between them, loaded with history. Naomi knew what he meant. He was remembering them, the way they used to be, before everything fell apart. "The triplets are already at your parents' house?" she asked, changing the subject. Braden nodded. "Dad texted me a picture of them making Christmas cookies with Mom. They're having a blast." "They love your parents," Naomi said, grabbing her coat and purse. "The feeling is mutual," Braden assured her as he helped her with her coat. His fingers brushed against her neck, sending a shiver down her spine. The drive to the hotel where the party was being held was filled with easy conversation, updates about the triplets, stories from work, plans for the upcoming holidays. It felt normal, comfortable, like they had been doing this for years. The party itself was elegant, a ballroom decorated with twinkling lights and silver ornaments, a live band playing Christmas classics, tables laden with food and drink. "Braden, there you are." A woman in a silver dress approached them, her smile wide. "And you must be Naomi. I've heard so much about you." "Naomi, this is Sarah, my assistant," Braden introduced them. "Sarah, yes, this is Naomi. It's so nice to finally meet you," Sarah said warmly. "Braden talks about you and the triplets all the time. His desk is covered with their pictures." Naomi glanced at Braden, who looked slightly embarrassed. "Is it?" "Oh yes," Sarah continued, oblivious to Braden's discomfort. "He's always showing us new photos, telling us about their latest achievements. We all feel like we know them already." As the evening progressed, Naomi met more of Braden's colleagues, all of whom seemed to know about the triplets. It was clear that Braden didn't hide his role as a father. He embraced it, celebrated it. During dinner, they were seated with Braden's boss, a distinguished older man named Harold, and his wife, Patricia. "Braden's been a wonderful addition to our team," Harold told Naomi. "He mentioned he moved back to Charlotte to be closer to family. That must be you and your children?" Naomi glanced at Braden, unsure how to answer. He gave her a slight nod, encouraging her to tell the truth. "Yes," she said. "We have triplets, Micah, Marley, and Malia. They're 3 years old." "Triplets," Patricia exclaimed. "How wonderful and challenging, I'm sure." "It is," Naomi agreed, "but worth every moment. Braden shows us pictures all the time," Harold said. "Beautiful children. You must be very proud." "We are," Braden said, reaching under the table to squeeze Naomi's hand. The gesture felt natural, right? After dinner, the band started playing slower songs. Couples moved to the dance floor, swaying to the music. "Would you like to dance?" Braden asked, holding out his hand. Naomi hesitated, then nodded. "I'd like that." He led her to the dance floor, one hand at the small of her back. As they began to dance, Naomi felt a rush of memories. Other dances, other nights years ago. Braden had always been a good dancer, confident and graceful. "This reminds me of that charity gala we went to," he said softly, as if reading her thoughts. "The one where you wore that blue dress that matched your eyes. You remember that?" Naomi asked, surprised. "I remember everything about us, Naomi," Braden said, his voice low. "The good and the bad, especially the bad, because that's what I'm trying to make up for." Naomi looked up at him, searching his face. You've changed so much, sometimes I hardly recognize you. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? He asked, a hint of vulnerability in his eyes. Good, she said without hesitation. Definitely good. They danced in silence for a moment, the music wrapping around them like a cocoon. Naomi, Braden said finally, his voice serious, I need to tell you something. Her heart skipped a beat. What is it? I never stopped loving you. Even when I was at my worst, even when I said those horrible things to you, I loved you. I was just too broken, too immature to show it properly. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Naomi felt tears prick at her eyes. You hurt me so badly, she whispered. I know, Braden said, his own eyes shining with unshed tears. And I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me. Not just as the Triplets' father, but as whatever you want me to be. The music swelled around them, other couples moving past in a blur. Naomi felt as if they were the only two people in the room. I don't know if I can trust you again, she admitted. Not with my heart. I understand, Braden said, his voice steady despite the pain in his eyes. But I'm not going anywhere, Naomi. I'll be here, as a co-parent, as a friend, as whatever you need, for as long as it takes. The sincerity in his voice, the depth of feeling in his eyes, broke something open inside Naomi, a wall she had built to protect herself, to keep him at a safe distance. I think, she said slowly, that I might be ready to try, not all at once, slowly, for the Triplets' sake and for ours too. Hope bloomed on Braden's face. Really? Really, Naomi confirmed. But Braden, if this doesn't work, it will, he interrupted, pulling her closer. I promise you, Naomi, this time, it will. As they continued to dance, Naomi allowed herself to rest her head against Braden's chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. She didn't know what the future held for them, whether they could rebuild what had been broken, whether the wounds of the past could truly heal. But for the first time in 4 years, she was willing to find out, for the Triplets' sake and for her own. The night ended with a kiss, tentative at first, then deeper, a rediscovery of something lost and now found again. As Braden drove her home, Naomi looked out at the city lights, a sense of peace settling over her. They were not the same people who had parted 4 years ago. She was stronger, more confident in who she was. He was humbler, more aware of his failings and determined to be better. Perhaps that was exactly what they needed to make it work this time. When they pulled up in front of her house, Braden turned to her. When should we pick up the Triplets? My parents said they could keep them overnight if we wanted some time to ourselves. The suggestion hung in the air between them, full of possibility. Naomi considered it, tempted by the thought of an uninterrupted night with Braden, a chance to explore this rekindled connection. But something held her back, not fear exactly, but caution, a sense that some things shouldn't be rushed. Let's get them in the morning, she said. But I think we should take things slow, Braden, for everyone's sake. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Of course, whatever pace you're comfortable with. As they said goodnight at her door, Braden kissed her once more, gentle, respectful, yet full of promise. Thank you for tonight, he said, for giving us a chance. Thank you for showing me who you really are, Naomi replied. The man I always hoped you could be. As she closed the door behind him, Naomi leaned against it, her heart full. 4 years ago, she had left Atlanta with a broken heart and shattered dreams. Now she stood in the home she had built for herself and her children, with the possibility of a new dream taking shape. It wasn't the life she had planned. It was messy and complicated and uncertain, but it was also full of love for her children, for herself, and maybe, just maybe, for the man who had once told her she'd never be a mother. The man who now looked at her with wonder and pride as she mothered the 3 beautiful children they had created together. The irony wasn't lost on her. Braden's cruel words had driven her away, had pushed her to prove him wrong, and in proving him wrong she had found her greatest strength, and perhaps her way back to him. Not the old him, not the man who had hurt her, but this new Braden, the one who had learned from his mistakes and grown into the father their children deserved. As Naomi got ready for bed, her phone buzzed with a text from Braden. Sweet dreams. Thank you for the best night I've had in 4 years. She smiled, typing back. Sweet dreams to you too. See you in the morning. It was a small step, a tentative beginning, but as Naomi drifted off to sleep, she felt a sense of hope she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Hope for herself, hope for her children, and hope for the family they might become, together. The new year brought changes to Naomi's carefully structured life. What had started with a chance meeting at a mall food court had evolved into something she never could have predicted, a second chance with Braden, the man whose cruel words had once driven her away. They were dating again, though Naomi preferred to call it getting to know each other. 3 nights a week, Braden would come over for dinner with her and the Triplets. On Fridays, his parents would take the Triplets for the evening, allowing Naomi and Braden to have dinner alone, to talk about things beyond diapers and daycare. "You're different," Naomi told him one night as they walked through a park near her house, their breath visible in the January air. "The way you listen now, the way you think before you speak." Braden smiled, his hand warm around hers. "I had a lot of time to learn from my mistakes. After you left, I went to therapy. Tried to figure out why I lashed out at the people I loved most." "And did you figure it out?" Naomi asked, genuinely curious. Braden was quiet for a moment. "Partly. I was afraid of failing you, of not being the man you needed. So I pushed you away before you could see how scared I was." "Scared of what?" "Of fatherhood, of responsibility, of growing up." He squeezed her hand. "Ironic, isn't it? I ended up pushing away the best thing in my life because I was afraid of losing it." The honesty in his voice touched something deep inside Naomi. This was the kind of conversation they had never had before. Open, vulnerable, real. "And now?" she asked. "Are you still afraid?" Braden stopped walking and turned to face her. "No. Now I'm afraid of something else entirely." "What's that?" "Of not getting this right. Of hurting you again. Of disappointing Micah, Marley, and Malia." His eyes held hers steadily. "They deserve better than the man I used to be." "They have the man you are now," Naomi said softly. "And he's doing a pretty good job." Braden's smile was tentative, hopeful. "Yeah?" "Yeah," Naomi confirmed. "The Triplets adore you. Micah wants to be just like his daddy. Marley saves all her drawings to show you. And Malia, well, you know how she is. She's still watching, still evaluating, but she asks for you when you're not there." The joy that spread across Braden's face was like sunrise. "She does." Yesterday she asked if Daddy was coming for dinner, and when I said no, she said, "But who will cut my chicken the right way?" Braden laughed, the sound warm in the cold air. "I didn't know my chicken cutting skills were so impressive." "Apparently you cut it into exactly 6 pieces. I only do 5, which is clearly inadequate." They continued walking, their conversation shifting to the Triplets' upcoming birthday. They would be turning 4 in March, a milestone that seemed impossible to Naomi. 4 years since those tiny babies had come into the world, changing everything. "I was thinking," Braden said hesitantly, "maybe we could throw them a big party. At my parents' house, they have that big backyard, and if the weather's good..." "That sounds nice," Naomi agreed. They've never had a real birthday party before, just small celebrations with Tanya and me. "Then it's settled," Braden said, his enthusiasm contagious. "We'll give them the best 4th birthday party ever." As they headed back to Naomi's house, snow began to fall, soft, delicate flakes that melted as soon as they touched the ground. Braden pulled Naomi closer, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. "I love you," he said simply. "I know it's probably too soon to say it, but it's true. I never stopped loving you, Naomi." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Naomi looked up at him, at the snowflakes catching in his hair, at the vulnerability in his eyes. "It's not too soon," she said finally. "Not when we have so much history. Not when we share 3 children." "But," Braden prompted, hearing the hesitation in her voice, "but I'm still learning to trust this us, the new version of us." Naomi chose her words carefully. "I care about you, Braden, deeply, and I think I could love you again. Maybe I already do, but I need time." Instead of pushing, instead of pulling away, Braden simply nodded. "Time is something I can give you, as much as you need." The maturity in his response, the patience and understanding, confirmed what Naomi already knew. This man was not the Braden who had broken her heart 4 years ago. This was someone new, someone better. When they reached her door, he kissed her, a gentle, respectful kiss that held promise, but demanded nothing. "Good night, Naomi. Sweet dreams." "Good night, Braden." As she closed the door behind him, Naomi leaned against it, her heart full. She was falling for him again, despite all her guards and walls. The question was, could she trust this feeling? Could she trust him? February brought a challenge to their fragile new beginning. Braden was offered a promotion, a significant one that would mean more money, more responsibility, and a better future for the Triplets. The catch: it would require him to travel to the company's offices in different cities, sometimes for days at a time. I haven't accepted it yet, he told Naomi, as they sat on her couch, the triplets already asleep. I wanted to talk to you first. Naomi felt a knot of anxiety form in her stomach. How much travel are we talking about? 1 week a month, maybe. Sometimes less. Braden ran a hand through his hair. It's a big opportunity, Naomi. The kind that doesn't come along often. I know, she said, trying to keep the worry from her voice. And you deserve it. You've worked hard. But, again he heard what she wasn't saying, but the triplets just got used to having you in their lives. They count on seeing you almost every day, and now you'll be gone for days at a time? The anxiety bubbled up despite her efforts to contain it. What happens when Micah has a t-ball game and you're not there? Or when Marley wants to show you her new painting? Or when Malia needs her chicken cut into exactly 6 pieces? Braden was quiet for a moment. You're right. It would be hard on them. Hard on all of us. And what about... Naomi hesitated, then forced herself to continue. What about us? We're just finding our way back to each other. Long distance isn't exactly ideal for that. It wouldn't be long distance, Braden pointed out. I'd still live here. I'd still see you and the kids most of the time. But you'd miss things, Naomi insisted. Important things. The unspoken fear hung between them. That distance would change things. That the progress they had made would unravel. That history would repeat itself. What do you think I should do? Braden asked finally. Naomi sighed. I can't tell you that, Braden. It's your career, your decision. But it affects all of us, he said. You, me, the triplets. We're a family now, or at least we're trying to be. Your opinion matters to me. The word family caught Naomi off guard. Was that what they were becoming? A family? I think, she said slowly, that you should take some time to think about what you really want. What's most important to you? Braden nodded, his expression thoughtful. I will. Thank you for being honest with me. After he left, Naomi checked on the triplets, watching their peaceful sleep and wondering what the future held. Part of her felt guilty for discouraging Braden from taking the promotion. Wasn't that selfish? Didn't he deserve a chance to advance his career? But another part of her was terrified of losing the stability they had built, of the triplets experiencing yet another disruption in their lives. And deep down, in a place she hardly dared acknowledge, she was afraid of losing him again, of history repeating itself in some new, unexpected way. The next morning she called Tanya. I think I messed up, she confessed. What happened? Tanya asked, concern in her voice. Naomi explained about Braden's promotion and her reaction to it. I basically told him not to take it. What kind of person does that make me? A human one, Tanya said gently. One who's protecting her family. But it's his career, his future. And what about your future? The triplets' future, aren't those important too? Naomi sighed. Of course they are. But I don't want to be the reason he turns down a great opportunity. Did you tell him not to take it? Tanya asked. Not in so many words, but I made it clear I was worried about how it would affect the triplets. And us. Then you were being honest. That's all anyone can ask. Tanya paused. Naomi, if Braden really has changed, he'll make this decision based on what's best for all of you, not just himself. And whatever he decides, it will tell you a lot about who he is now. After they hung up, Naomi thought about Tanya's words. She was right. This was a test. Not one Naomi had planned or wanted, but a test nonetheless. How Braden handled this situation would reveal whether he had truly changed, whether he was ready to put his family first. All she could do now was wait. 3 days passed with no word from Braden. He didn't come for dinner, didn't call, didn't text. The triplets asked about him constantly. Where's Daddy? Micah demanded at bedtime. He promised to read me the dinosaur book. Daddy's busy with work, sweetie, Naomi explained, trying to hide her own worry. He'll come see you soon. But as the silence stretched on, Naomi's anxiety grew. Had she pushed him away? Had her fears about the promotion made him reconsider their entire relationship? On the 4th day, just as she was putting the triplets down for their afternoon nap, the doorbell rang. Naomi hurried to answer it, hoping it was Braden. It was. He stood on her porch, looking tired but determined. Can we talk? Naomi nodded, stepping back to let him in. The triplets are napping. They've been asking about you. I'm sorry I disappeared, Braden said, following her to the kitchen. I needed some time to think, to make a decision. Naomi's heart raced. And did you make a decision? Braden nodded, his expression serious. I did. I turned down the promotion. What? Naomi was stunned. Braden, no, you didn't have to do that. I did, actually, he said, his voice calm. And not just for the triplets. Or for you. For me, too. I don't understand. Braden sat at the kitchen table, gesturing for Naomi to join him. When you brought up your concerns about the travel, about me missing important moments with the kids, it made me really think about what I want my life to look like. Naomi sat across from him, listening. 4 years ago, I was all about my career, about moving up, making more money, being successful, Braden continued. And look where that got me. Alone, miserable, missing out on the first 3 years of my children's lives. He reached across the table, taking her hands in his. I don't want to miss anything else, Naomi. Not one T-ball game, not one painting, not one chance to cut Malia's chicken into exactly 6 pieces. Tears filled Naomi's eyes. But your career is important, Braden finished for her, but not as important as my family, not as important as you. The simplicity of his statement, the certainty in his voice, broke something open inside Naomi. This was what she had needed to hear, not just the words, but the conviction behind them. Besides, Braden added with a small smile, I negotiated an alternative, a different position with the same pay increase but minimal travel. I'll be managing the Charlotte office instead of overseeing multiple branches. Relief washed over Naomi. So you didn't have to give up the opportunity completely? No, but I was prepared to, if that's what it took. Braden's eyes held hers. I meant what I said, Naomi. I love you. I love our children. I'm not going to let anything come between us again. In that moment, the last of Naomi's doubts faded away. This man, this new, improved version of Braden, had proven himself in the most meaningful way possible. He had chosen them, chosen family over ambition, love over success. I love you too, she said softly, the words feeling right, natural. I think I've been afraid to admit it, even to myself, but I do. The joy that spread across Braden's face was like sunshine after rain. He stood, pulling her up with him, and wrapped his arms around her. Say it again, he whispered against her hair. Naomi laughed, tears of happiness spilling down her cheeks. I love you, Braden Marks. God help me, but I do. Their kiss was different this time, deeper, more certain, a promise of things to come. When they finally pulled apart, Braden rested his forehead against hers. Move in with me, he said suddenly. Naomi blinked, caught off guard. What? Move in with me. You and the triplets. Braden's eyes were alight with excitement. Or I'll move in here, whichever you prefer. I just want us to be together under one roof, a real family. Braden, that's a big step, Naomi cautioned, though her heart raced at the idea. I know, but we've already lost 4 years. I don't want to waste any more time. Before Naomi could respond, a small voice came from the doorway. Daddy? They turned to see Malia standing there, rubbing sleep from her eyes. You came back. Braden crossed the room and knelt in front of her. Of course I did, Princess. I'll always come back to you. Malia studied his face, her green eyes, so like his. Serious. Promise? I promise, Braden said solemnly. Cross my heart. Satisfied, Malia held up her arms to be picked up. Braden lifted her, holding her close. Mama was sad when you didn't come, Malia informed him matter-of-factly. She pretended she wasn't, but she was. Braden glanced at Naomi, who felt her cheeks flush. Was she now? Malia nodded. She looked at her phone a lot, and she didn't laugh at Micah's jokes, even the really funny ones. Well, I'm here now, Braden said, carrying Malia to where Naomi stood. And I'm not going anywhere. The 3 of them stood together in the kitchen, a family moment that felt both ordinary and extraordinary. Naomi looked at Braden holding their daughter, at the love in his eyes, and knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. So, Braden said, his voice light but his eyes serious, what do you think about my idea? About us living together? Malia perked up. Like Daddy would live here all the time. That's right, Princess, Braden said. If that's okay with you and your brother and sister. And your mum, of course. Malia considered this, then nodded decisively. You can have the guest room. It has the best view of the backyard. The adults laughed, the tension broken. Well, that's settled then, Braden said, winking at Naomi. We'll talk about it, Naomi promised, both to Braden and to Malia. After we wake up your brother and sister. This is a family decision. The word family felt right on her tongue. Natural, true. The triplets' 4th birthday party was everything Naomi and Braden had hoped for. The weather was perfect, warm for March, with a gentle breeze and clear blue skies. Robert and Martha's backyard was transformed with balloons, streamers, and a bounce house that was the hit of the party. Tanya had outdone herself with the cake. 3 tiers, each decorated to match one of the triplets' personalities. Dinosaurs for Micah, butterflies for Marley, and stars for Malia, who had recently developed an interest in astronomy. As Naomi watched the triplets run and play with their friends from daycare, she felt a contentment she had never expected to find again. Beside her, Braden stood with his arm around her waist, a proud smile on his face. "They're amazing, aren't they?" he said, his voice full of wonder. "Our kids. They are," Naomi agreed. "Perfect. Not perfect," Braden corrected gently, "but perfect for us." The past month had been a whirlwind of changes. After a family meeting where Micah and Marley enthusiastically supported the idea of Daddy moving in, and Malia gave her conditional approval, contingent on him learning to braid her hair properly, they had decided to sell both their places and buy a new home together, a fresh start for their reunited family. They had found a house just a few blocks from Braden's parents, with a big backyard and a tree perfect for a swing set. They would move in next month after the closing. "Penny for your thoughts," Braden said, noticing Naomi's contemplative expression. "I was just thinking about how much has changed in a year," she replied. "Last March it was just me and the triplets. I never imagined we'd be here now, planning a future together." "Are you happy?" Braden asked, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. Naomi looked at him, at the man who had once hurt her so deeply, who had now become her partner, her co-parent, her love. "Yes," she said simply, "I'm happy." The relief on his face was palpable. "Me too. Happier than I've ever been." Martha approached them, carrying a tray of lemonade. "You two should mingle with the other parents," she chided gently. "Stop standing here like teenagers at a dance." "Yes, Mom," Braden said with a grin, taking 2 glasses from the tray. "We'll be social in a minute." After Martha walked away, Braden turned to Naomi. "I have something for you. A birthday present in a way." "It's not my birthday," Naomi pointed out. "It's the triplets' birthday." "I know, but 4 years ago today you became a mother. That's worth celebrating too." He pulled a small box from his pocket and handed it to her. Naomi's heart skipped a beat. "Braden, it's not what you think," he said quickly. "Not yet, anyway. Open it." With trembling fingers, Naomi opened the box. Inside was a beautiful pendant, a silver tree of life with 3 small birthstones dangling from its branches, one for each of the triplets. "It's beautiful," she breathed, lifting it from the box. "Turn it over," Braden instructed. On the back, engraved in tiny, elegant script, were the words, "To the most amazing mother our children could ever have. Love, B." Tears filled Naomi's eyes. "Braden, I was so wrong," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "When I said you'd never be a mother, when I said some people just aren't meant for it, I've never been more wrong about anything in my life." He took the necklace from her and fastened it around her neck, his fingers gentle against her skin. "You were born to be a mother, Naomi. Our children are the luckiest kids in the world to have you." The words she had waited 4 years to hear, not spoken in apology or regret, but in genuine awe and appreciation. "Thank you," she whispered, touching the pendant where it rested against her skin. Braden cupped her face in his hands. "No, thank you, for proving me wrong, for not giving up, for being strong enough to leave when you needed to, and brave enough to try again when the time was right." Their kiss was interrupted by the sound of small feet running toward them. "Mama! Daddy! It's cake time!" Micah announced, tugging at their hands. Hand in hand, they followed their son to the picnic table where the other guests were gathering. As the crowd sang "Happy Birthday" to the triplets, Naomi looked around at the life she had built, at her beautiful children, at Braden standing beside her, at Tanya and Martha and Robert, at the home they would soon share. It wasn't the life she had planned. It was better, richer, more real. After the party, when the guests had gone and the triplets were playing with their new toys under Martha and Robert's watchful eyes, Braden pulled Naomi aside. "There's something else I wanted to give you," he said, his expression suddenly serious. "But I wasn't sure if the timing was right." "What is it?" Naomi asked, curious. From his pocket, Braden withdrew another small box. This one unmistakably a ring box. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. "I'm not proposing." "Not officially," Braden said quickly. "I know we agreed to take things slow, to focus on blending our lives before we take that step." He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring. "But I wanted you to know that when you're ready, when we're both ready, this is waiting. A promise of what's to come." Naomi looked at the ring, then at Braden, at the man who had once broken her heart with a single cruel sentence, and who had spent months proving how much he had changed. "Ask me," she said softly. Braden's eyes widened. "What? Ask me now," Naomi repeated more firmly this time. Life is short, Braden. We've already wasted 4 years. I don't want to waste any more time. Joy spread across Braden's face. Slowly, he lowered himself to one knee, the ring box held in his trembling hand. "Naomi Ellis," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Mother of my children, love of my life, will you marry me?" "Yes," Naomi said without hesitation. "Yes, I will." As Braden slipped the ring onto her finger as he rose to kiss her, Naomi felt a sense of completion she had never experienced before. The circle that had broken 4 years ago was now mended, stronger at the broken places, just as she was. "Shall we tell the triplets?" Braden asked, nodding toward where Micah, Marley, and Malia were playing. "Yes," Naomi said, taking his hand. "Let's tell our family." As they walked toward their children, Naomi thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment, about the pain and the growth, the separation and the reunion, about the cruel words that had driven her away, and the loving actions that had brought her back. "You'll never be a mum, some people just aren't meant for it." Those words had once shattered her. Now they were just echoes from the past, meaningless in the face of the truth. She was a mother, a wonderful mother. And Braden, the man who had once denied her that identity, now celebrated it with her. It wasn't the path she would have chosen, but it had led her here, to this perfect moment, with her children playing in the sunshine and the man she loved by her side. And that made every step of the journey worthwhile. The wedding was small and intimate, held in the backyard of their new home on a perfect June day. The triplets participated in the ceremony, Micah as ring-bearer, Marley and Malia as flower girls. "Do you, Braden James Marks, take Naomi Grace Ellis to be your lawfully wedded wife?" the minister asked. Braden looked at Naomi, his eyes filled with love and certainty. "I do." "And do you, Naomi Grace Ellis, take Braden James Marks to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Naomi smiled, her heart full. "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." As Braden's lips met hers, sealing their vows, Naomi heard the triplets cheering. She opened her eyes to see them jumping up and down with excitement, their faces alight with joy. Later, as they danced under the stars, Braden held her close. "Happy?" he asked. "More than I ever thought possible," Naomi replied honestly. "Me too," Braden said. "You know, when I saw you in that mall food court, with the triplets, it was like my heart started beating again after being still for 4 years. "Mine too," Naomi admitted, "even though I tried to fight it." "I'm glad you lost that fight," Braden said with a grin. Naomi laughed. "Me too. For once, I'm glad I was wrong." "We were both wrong," Braden said, his expression growing serious. "You about me never changing, me about you never being a mother, but we found our way to the truth. And to each other," Naomi added softly. "And to each other," Braden echoed, pulling her closer. "Forever this time." As they swayed to the music, surrounded by friends and family, with their children watching from the sidelines, Naomi knew this was just the beginning of their story. There would be challenges ahead, bumps in the road, moments of doubt and fear, but there would also be joy, love, growth, the daily miracle of raising their children together, the comfort of waking up beside each other every morning, and the knowledge that sometimes the most painful moments in life can lead to the most beautiful beginnings. That night, after the guests had gone and the triplets were asleep, Naomi stood in the doorway of their bedroom, watching their peaceful slumber. Braden came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, his voice soft in the darkness. "About how being their mother is the best thing I've ever done," Naomi replied. "And how glad I am that they'll grow up with both of us now." Braden kissed her shoulder. "There are miracles." "Yes," Naomi agreed. "Our proof that sometimes what someone says you'll never be is exactly what you're meant to become." She turned in his arms, looking up at the man who had once hurt her so deeply and now loved her so completely. "Thank you for finding us again. Thank you for letting me," Braden said simply. "For giving me a second chance to be the man you deserved all along." As they walked hand in hand to their bedroom, Naomi felt a sense of peace settle over her. The past was healed, the present was beautiful, and the future stretched before them, full of promise and possibility, a future they would build together one day at a time, with love as their foundation and their children as their greatest blessing. A future where Naomi was exactly what Braden had once said she'd never be, a mother. Not just any mother, but the best mother their children could ever have. And now at last she was something else too, a wife, a partner, A woman loved completely for exactly who she was. The circle was complete. Their family was whole, and their story, once broken, was now mended, stronger and more beautiful than before, just like them.